Dallas, had kids, realized I really don't want to run somebody else's program.
Right.
Got my clinical license down here in Texas, did phenomenal work at a county hospital, worked with some phenomenal people at the county hospital here in Dallas. Um, Started private practice, just working under a psychologist friend of mine, and then decided to open up my own practice. Been doing therapy, addiction, trauma work for a very long time. Um, so yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I just realized something, like my connections of YouTube and Facebook were not connected. So please
Oh,
forgive us, everyone.
oh.
So I was just like, oh my gosh, like why isn't this connecting? So for everyone who is just joining, thank you for joining. We had Brandi had some connection issues on my end. So let me briefly go over again the disclaimer for those of you who are watching, because it looks like it did not go through on Facebook. Because I was like wondering, I was like, I was checking my Facebook and YouTube. I was like, why is not popping up? What's going on? So I just want to put this out here, everyone, that for those of you who are watching also can't see BC. Okay, not a problem. You know what? We're going to move this around. Not a problem. Do understand that we are. So I'm going to move this baby around. People want to see your face.
Oh, hi.
Hello, everybody out there in the Instagram world. So I just want to put this out here just in case. Oh, you know what? Let me turn this around. Hold on, everybody. We're having all the difficulties. Let's see. Can y'all see? Wait a minute. That wait. All right. For those of you on Instagram, it's really going to be a listening. Hold on. Let me do this. Let me do this. All right, BC, give me a minute. Don't be alarmed,
No,
everybody.
I'm not. Don't worry. Things happen
Yes,
in this
things happen.
in
So let
this
me see if I
COVID
can.
years that we have going on.
All right, there we go. So y'all are kind of getting behind the scenes on Instagram. All right, for those of you who are just joining, I do apologize for all the disruption. I want to put this disclaimer out there, and for those of you who are listening on Instagram, that I want y'all to let y'all know that this is a
Can't.
conversation. It is not to replace you going to go see a professional therapist. This is generalized conversation. So for those of you who are on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram, I know some of you will have questions, and that is fine. Please understand that I am bringing the resources to you. So towards the end, I will give you contact information so that y'all can get in contact with BC. Anyways, let's get started. I don't want to delay or belabor our conversation. So BC,
Mm-hmm.
from having conversations with you and sharing my story with many women, is that I was
Mm-hmm.
stabbed 20 times in my home in 2010. And from that, what we're going to talk about here is talk about how trauma can tie to or align to addiction, as well as we're going to talk about the importance of what is forgiveness, not for the other person, but it's for you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And
Yeah.
then we're also going to talk a little bit about like the victim mentality, how that can be addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was there at one point and had to realize that at some point I had to drop that. Like I think in the beginning stages, it was like, yes, I am the victim and I need to figure out how to handle this emotion that I'm going through. But later
Mm-hmm.
on, as I would talk about my story and find myself getting emotional about it, I found myself in this victim mentality or feeling like I needed this pity. And that can sometimes be addictive. It can translate, even though when you're no longer you healed and everything, you still can have this a victimized addiction because you want the attention that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about trauma and how it ties, because this is something that you're very passionate about. How
Yes.
does trauma tie to addiction? Like I was even surprised when you mentioned it to me. I was like, people can find addiction in this, like, or it can lead to an addiction.
It can
So
lead to an addiction, yes.
yeah, so talk a little bit about that.
With trauma, depending on there's different types of trauma, right? Most times when
Yeah,
people hear trauma, they're thinking stabbing, they're thinking
yeah,
rape, they're thinking molestation. It could be a car crash, like a really bad car
yeah,
crash. It could be a hurricane, like Hurricane Katrina. and
Yeah.
how people were traumatized by that.
Oh my gosh, that's
But,
so good.
like,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then now another hurricane hit, and now
Yes.
the
Yeah.
city is going through that again.
Yes.
So addiction, a lot of times people with the emotional pain are looking for relief. And when we grow up in
Mhm.
school, no one tells us how to live life on life's terms, right? They
Yeah.
just tell you
Yeah.
do math, reading. You'd be lucky if you did home ec or sewing or whatever, or
Girl,
woodworking
I
or
did sewing and
mechanics.
home ec. Yes.
See, you
I'm
wouldn't.
aging myself.
I did not. So now if a button pops off my child's clothes, I'm like, oh, get trash.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like we didn't learn life, right? Like how to
Yeah.
do life, how
Yeah.
to balance a budget and all these things, right?
Yeah.
And likewise, we never learned coping skills. Like if someone has good coping skills as an adult, they are far ahead than most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so a lot of times our society, a lot of devices or a lot of things that society uses and says is good coping is alcohol. If you look at alcohol, they say if you had a long day at work, you stressed out, go to a happy hour. And for some people who have addiction as a part of their
Yeah.
that's a part of their like DNA, like their mothers on their mother's side or their father's side, someone may have been addicted to something. Now, if that person is using
Mm.
the alcohol or the drugs to kind of numb themselves, get away from their issue, kind
Yeah.
of soothe that emotional pain,
Yeah.
it becomes like, oh, I don't want to deal with this feeling. I don't want to remember this issue, right?
Yeah.
I don't want this
Yeah.
flashback. I don't want this nightmare. I don't want the stress and anxiety that comes with all of that. Let
Yeah.
me let me have a shot. Let me smoke. Let me smoke. Let me
Yeah.
pop this pain pill. Let
Yeah.
me let me do this cocaine, a bump of cocaine or
Yeah.
smoke out of a crack pipe. And because that makes me feel better. It's
Yeah.
quick, it's fast, I feel better. I don't have to think about how I allowed this person into my life and they did X to me. I don't
Yeah.
have to think
Yeah.
about my dad, or, whatever the situation is, right?
Yeah.
And so when that you find that fixes how you are feeling and you're not feeling bad about yourself, you're not having low self-esteem, you can
Yeah.
go and talk in front of people, you could be the life of the party, then yeah, you're going to go back and do the same thing again and then
Yeah.
again. And then
So BC, what other common, so I know those are like, to me, it can
chemical
be, yeah, those are a bit, they can be extreme, for someone, but let's say maybe it's a sugar addiction.
sugar
Maybe
is extreme in my opinion.
oh yeah, no, I
Uh,
know, no, trust me, I know.
sugar and food is the one of the worst things, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
yeah.
in
So like
addiction.
how like have you seen people that find like I've been through something traumatic, and remember y'all, like trauma isn't just a physical trauma. It can be a mental trauma, it can be a hurt from a relationship trauma, and
Yeah.
to numb the pain, what you're saying, BC, is that it can lead to these different things to relieve us, and it's temporarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this ain't this ain't gonna relieve me for the next one, because what I'm thinking happens, BC, and you tell me that
Mhm.
I remember again what happened.
Yeah.
So I really didn't get over it. That whatever that addiction was, numbed it or relieved that pain for like a short period of time. So what does that do to the
Exactly.
psyche person? Like when they're doing it over and over again and they don't recognize that they're doing that.
It's it's a lot of it's unconscious, a lot of
Mm,
it is a lot of it is you're just seeking relief, right? You're just seeking some type of relief. You're seeking a way to feel better. You're not trying to figure out if it's the right way, the wrong way, if it's going to lead to
mm,
this. You
mhm.
know, with food, with sex, with porn. I mean, we could go on
Yeah.
and on and on about the different
Oh,
addictions
wow.
out
Yeah.
there, but you can literally see that the dopamine, I mean, I don't want to go into too much neuroscience, but the happy chemicals in your brain, you know, the happy chemicals in your brain, dopamine. Like, okay, if I'm low on dopamine, I'm feeling low and down, like if that makes me happy, I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have all of these things that can really just cause your brain to then be like, instead of you even thinking about it, be like, I know what makes you feel better. Go get that
Yeah.
thing. Go
But
go
what
go eat that
leads
ice cream.
so BC, what leads a person to do that? Like, I know it's to relieve the pain,
Hmm.
but what leads you to get there? Like, because you're saying it's unconscious, because you're
Yes.
right. It is it could be unconscious,
Hmm.
but then it happens. So what
Yes.
leads us to that place?
The place of the addiction piece,
Yes.
or
Yes. The place of the addiction piece.
it becomes a habit.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It's a formed
Mm-hmm.
habit. But
Mm-hmm.
then at the same time, not only is it a formed habit, but then the body is physically, for something, well, no, for all of them, the body is physically craving this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about, I don't know about anybody else, but I love food. And I get
I love
cravings,
food.
not
I do.
pregnant. I always got cravings, not pregnant. So when I was pregnant and I didn't have cravings, I was pissed off.
Okay.
Um, and think about it. I'm like, oh, I want some Korean food. And
Yeah.
that it just pops up in my head and it does
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
leave. That instant, like it
Until you
doesn't leave. You just,
satisfy the thing.
yeah, yes. And BC will drive 45 minutes down to Grand Prairie for some Nigerian food if she has to. Like, you know what I mean? Like, is that like that within
Mm,
us? And there's still studies about it, but one thing I've recognized is that in a lot of times when people are for me, my specialty is chemical addiction. I do some of the other stuff also,
yeah,
but in chemical addiction, so any sort of chemicals, cocaine, whatever, heroin, whatever,
yeah.
some people may just have started using it as a high school student, nothing really traumatic happens, but then the trauma happens in their addiction. So
Mm,
then for women especially, I worked with someone who has been in recovery for like 40 some odd years. And one thing him and I would always have a discussion. He said it always hurt his heart whenever he saw a woman addicted to something.
mm,
And it stuck with me because in this conversation, he was like, a man could be addicted to something and he may not have any more money. And the idea of getting clean and sober pops up. He said, but women are so violated and abused and trafficked that they can
yeah.
always get the drug, they can always get the alcohol because someone will give it to them. And
Wow.
so, and he said it's so hard for women, it's so hard for women um to to um to sometimes get clean and sober just because of the trauma that they're stuck in their addiction. And
Mm,
so one thing that I've seen is that a lot of times you'll hear, like nowadays with the opioid epidemic, you hear a lot of families say,
yeah,
"Oh my God, this person was such a nice person," or blah 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 blah, good A,
yeah,
straight A
yeah,
student and
yeah.
everything. And you see them now, and they're afraid to go back because of all the things that they've been through in their addiction that has led to them
Mhm.
being traumatized and re-traumatized almost daily. Um, so.
Because of okay, so what you're saying, BC, let me make sure I have this correct. What you're
Mhm,
saying is that when somebody has chemical addiction due to a traumatic experience, that
mhm.
those things going backwards to recovery to make amends with individuals or make amends with life, that sometimes it's hard because they feel
Oh yeah.
like they're going to be judged.
Oh, yeah, they are judged. A lot of
Yeah.
people, I mean, they are judged. I
So,
think,
like, to the person who is hearing this that is a family member of someone who has some type of so let me ask you this. Okay, so this question just popped up in my mind as I was about to say
I
my
can see your brain like
yeah, my brain was like, "Wait, wait, wait." So, when we think about people who do have some type of substance abuse, is it
Right.
tied to a trauma? I know it's a
It can
habit that
be.
they may have had, maybe, like, to your point, in high school, or they tried it, you know what I mean? And then the trauma happens. So,
It could go
but
both ways. It could go both
really?
ways. Yeah, you have, I mean, you have individuals who, I mean, this is like I'm mixing stories together due to
Yeah,
confidentiality. So I'm
yeah,
going to
yeah,
mix a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah, yeah,
stories
yeah,
together so that
yeah,
whatever. Um, Client A walks in and you're, doing a regular old thing. So like they have kids. So like, how old are your kids? Blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
Were you, were you married to the father and things like that? And let's say the client says, I had my father's kid at
Wow.
16 and I started to use drugs at 16.
Mm,
The click there is, right? And so
yeah,
you hear these things. So it's not like the chicken before the egg type of thing. It's like
yeah,
sometimes the trauma can lead to the substance, and sometimes the substance can lead to the trauma. So it's for family members who are trying to help someone in addiction.
yeah,
One thing I always tell them is to get out of the way. Stop, don't enable. Go to Al-Anon, learn how to Al-Anon is the AA version of, or there's a NA version of it too. It's the AA version for families to learn
mhm,
how to deal with the family member who's addicted to a chemical or alcohol. And that's one thing, is to
mhm.
step out of the way. Do not enable. If the person's hungry, give them food, not money. Like learning those type of skills, right?
Mm,
Um, if the
mhm.
person is a danger to you, you're gonna have to put a boundary there and separate. Um, if you feel tired because you're the one running around trying to find the resources and stuff, then
Yeah.
you're doing too much. And it's
Mm,
hard for people to hear this, but if you're working harder than that person for their own change, first of all,
mhm.
you're gonna be pissed off because they're not gonna change. They're not gonna work at it. They're gonna probably tell you, yeah, and then maybe go to the rehab, and then the
Yeah.
next day, leave. So you have to sometimes you just have to wait for the person to be tired of being tired
Wow.
and pray that the person survives to the point where they're tired of being tired.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. I was gonna follow up with that to say, but sometimes the weight ends up being something very traumatic, because
Yeah,
they do the extreme happens
yeah,
opposed to them recognizing, okay, there is a problem. I need to get help. And now I'm starting to realize that this has caused a problem in my life. And so when I think about BC, when I think about my trauma,
hmm
it didn't get that far.
that's good.
But for someone who isn't as strong as someone like myself, I don't even know how I did it. You know what? I do know. It was by the grace of God that he had already pre-positioned me to be at church, to be involved, and then this happened. And honestly, because I was a new Christian, I didn't know how to process the emotion. So I'm wondering, does a lot of the addiction have to do because a person doesn't know how to process what is going on? So that is a coping mechanism for them to be like, I don't know how to deal with the emotion, so I'm gonna find something that's gonna relieve me of the emotion.
Yes, it is a coping. Yes, yeah, it is a coping mechanism. But there's one thing just to clarify. I don't. It's not that. So it just so happened that you had support. You were connected in an
Yeah,
environment that people can just surround you and give you information, give you resources, right?
yeah,
Which is a blessing. For some
right,
people, they don't. Some people don't know what to do.
right, right.
They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They don't know what's resources. They don't understand what's happening. Their family members may not understand what's happening, or they may be dealing with their own response to that same issue.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
because mental health has just been such a privileged thing for some people, like for a
yeah,
very long time, think about it. There's such a demand for BIPOC folk to be therapists now, you
yeah,
know? and there's not enough of us. I work 9 to 5 doing therapy for, a company. And every time I tell someone like, okay, our time is done, it's time to graduate, like but BC, I can't find another person like you. And it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I have to graduate you so I can see other people too, and I know you want to keep me,
Yeah.
but I have to. I've taught you the skills. Is now it's time for you to continue on. And with the coping, it's like I said in the beginning of this, we're not taught how to cope. We're not taught healthy
Yeah.
coping mechanisms. Think
No.
about it. My daughter now is learning that, her father, like if she's bouncing all over the place, driving us crazy, her father'd be like, let's do like a 5-minute meditation. Let's listen to
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and it's guided. And after she does that, boom, she is calm.
Yeah.
They don't do,
Yeah.
if you can you
Yeah.
imagine if they did that I know they're starting to do that now, but in
Yeah.
inner cities with kids that they put in detention, if they taught them how to deal with that energy, how to release that type of energy,
Mm.
how far could they go?
That is
And
so good, BC. Oh
think
my
about it. Like
gosh.
everybody's so worried about a child being an A+ student, but do you know that exercise and playtime is really important? You don't
Mm.
learn that unless you can afford to send your child to a Montessori school, where
Right.
Montessori is about playing and learning to play. And kids who go to Montessori, they grab stuff quickly. They're super smart,
Wow. Because they're
and
learning
they're
because they're
learning in the
learning
environment.
yes, and they're learning life skills
Exactly.
to help them to be great, to know how to cope with I am feeling energy and it's not good right now. And I know how to deal with how to dial it down and to say, this is not serving me. So
They don't
I'm a,
even need to say all of that.
yeah,
They just know like I can play,
yeah,
right? I can
yeah, yeah, yeah.
express myself. I can be who
Yes,
I want
that
to
part.
be. You
Yes,
know, they're not learning to be somebody that they're not. They're not
right.
learning, like a lot of people are unhappy in life because I work with a lot of tech clients, right? And a lot
Hmm.
of them are like, I wouldn't be in tech if my parents didn't force me to. I
Oh,
hate this
wow.
job. This is not my passion. And I'm like, me, I'm like, go for your passion. How can we get you to
Right,
go to your
right, right,
passion,
right,
right?
right,
And
right.
they're like, no, because being a first generation immigrant, I get a lot of first generation immigrants as
Hmm.
clients, and they
Hmm.
tell me they're like, oh no, that's not a choice. Especially if they're Nigerian too. It's like you either engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or nurse. I'm a rebel. Bolu and I are rebels. We went the other way. Okay,
I'm
our
like,
families.
no, we're not doing that.
No, but and it's you just hear like people just have this trauma in immigration, like families immigrate into a different country. There's the
Yeah,
trauma of leaving where and being around people who look like you to come into a
yeah,
country that might discriminate against you because of the way you look or because of because of your name you
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
um
Lou said rebel over here.
but and
Hmm.
for the longest time, if somebody was trying to say my name, I'd be like, stop, it's okay, like it's me. Like in class, I would be like, the
Yeah.
teacher would be like, I'm like, stop, it's me. Don't How do you say don't worry?
Right.
I would be so angry inside, and the trauma of
Wow.
is that, like,
Yeah.
and for a long time, I did not like my name.
Mm.
For the longest time, I did not like my name because my name made me seem different. I was in New York City. There
Yeah.
weren't that many Nigerians in the school at the time. And having a name like Olabisi, and I'm saying
Yeah.
it the Nigerian way, but they would say like Olabisi, and all kinds of
Just
stuff.
check.
And finally,
Girl, just
I just kept it as Olabisi, like, because I'm like, I can't,
I
not every
can't.
time.
Yeah,
I
every
just
time.
can't.
Every
I just
like literally
every
every time.
last time. And then I would get that's exotic. That's so nice. That's exotic. And I'd be like, you're lying. Stop.
Just stop.
I'm not a
Just stop.
pet. I'm
Right.
not, but it's to get back on topic.
No,
It's
that's fine, but that's real. Like, because like it's funny that you say that. I remember someone had said to me, and I get it a lot, but it's probably not as extreme as yours. But people ask me like, "How do you spell your name?" And for me, I'm like, "It's common. It's Brandy." Like, but for
Yeah.
them, they were like, "Oh, is it with a Y or an I?"
Oh,
And I remember somebody saying, "Talking about, I'm gonna call you Brandy with an
with an
I."
eye.
And I was just like, "But that's the way you spell my name. Like, it is with an I." But if I have to go through that just with a common name, like I can't even let me take that back. Not a common name, but with something that is
Mhm.
familiar to people, I can't
Right.
even imagine on the other side. That's why I was like, please state your name. Like, I don't want to jack your stuff up because I know I
No
will.
worries.
I know me, and I told Baloo that too. I said, honey, say your name because I ain't got time to be jacking your stuff up, honey. I'm all about being transparent. I would jack
Right.
your stuff up. I don't understand some syllables, and I'm okay with that. Okay.
And that's
But
fine because you
yeah,
know.
exactly. But
You know.
I wanna touch on, and I know we're getting close to time, but we kind of ran
Mhm.
into some technical
Yes.
issues. I'm
No
like, every
worries.
time I'm like, this is my third time. So my second time dealing with that. But I want to talk about a little bit about touch on um the forgiveness part. So now this person has
Yes.
gone through trauma. They now have decided to make recovery happen for them.
Right.
What does forgiveness look like when you get a patient or you get a client, um,
Mhm.
and they're wanting to forgive themselves? What are things that you provide to them to help them understand you can forgive yourself?
I think before we do the forgiving of themselves,
Yeah.
sometimes we have to do the forgiving of that person that hurt them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
sometimes we can do the forgiveness work within the person and then move forward. But a lot
Mhm.
of times there's anger. There's so much anger.
I
And
was
then,
angry.
a
Yeah.
lot of times, and if we were in session, I would ask you what's underneath that anger, what's that secondary emotion? And a lot of
Mm.
times people don't know
No, I wouldn't be
because
able to tell you. Yeah, if you would have asked me that, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you. I would have told you the surface of, I'm angry because this happened to me. Period. But for you, you're like, nah, it's something else
there's
because
deeper.
yeah, yeah,
were
yeah, no.
you were you hurt by this, like, did this person's actions hurt you?
Mm.
Were you
Mhm.
embarrassed?
Mhm.
Were you fearful?
Yeah.
Sometimes anger, sometimes a lot of times in that secondary emotion could be anger. It could be powerlessness. A lot of times you see a lot of our guys, African American men, who feel powerless when a police stops them.
Mhm.
Like that
Yeah.
feeling of powerlessness can lead to anger,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The unfairness of the act.
Yeah.
So, and then a lot of times where if it's like for instance, someone hurt you physically,
Yeah.
what does where is and another question I ask people is like, where are you feeling that?
Mhm.
Where are you feeling the anger? Where are you feeling that emotion?
Mhm.
Sometimes
Mhm.
people will tell you they feel it in their throat, they feel it in their chest,
Oh,
they
like
could
your
feel it in the
physical body.
yes, your
Okay.
physical body. Like, do you feel where are you feeling that? And some people may feel it where they were violated, and
Mm.
they may feel, the burning sensation of the anger wherever that it may be, And sometimes, I tell people forgiveness is not about the other person. And I know people hear this all the time, but it's
Yeah.
true. It's really not about the
So
other
true.
person. It's about you. It's about releasing that.
Mhm.
I always call it energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to
Yeah.
use. It's about releasing that from yourself.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're drinking poison to hurt somebody else.
Mm.
You got to let go of that poison so that you
Yeah.
can heal fully. And so that's why I said with forgiveness of yourself, sometimes we have to do the forgiveness of that thing or that person that caused
Yeah.
that situation to happen, whether it's
Yeah.
your parents, whether it's whatever. Um, and so I we do that work. Sometimes and forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. You don't have to
Mhm.
talk to that person, you don't have to be friends with that person, you don't have to do nothing with that person.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes that work is done without that person even being there.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
writing an
Like
email and not
I
sending.
had to, yeah, like that's real because I had to go through that. I had
Okay.
to get to a place to I had to do forgiveness in 3 levels. I had to forgive myself because I
Yep.
felt like it was my fault.
Mm,
I had to forgive the situation because I felt
yes.
like because of certain actions that I made in my life leading up to the situation, that I felt like
Wow.
my
Hmm.
actions had something to do with it, that I didn't make right decisions. That's the reason why this happened to me. And
Right.
then I had to forgive the person. Like I know I was having conversation with someone in another medical profession, and I know that they had mentioned like sometimes that piece is probably the hardest,
Yes.
especially if you just came out of it. If you're talking to someone that just came out of like a nasty divorce or abusive relationship, they're not ready to hear.
Oh, we're not talking about forgiveness then.
Yeah,
I'm
like we
sorry.
ain't
No,
even
no, no,
talking.
no.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like
we're
so.
starting with something else. So we're starting
y-
with just the processing of the, like, let's say if it's a divorce, we're talking about the process. We're processing the death of that relationship. We're
Yes,
processing the
yes,
death of the promises of that relationship. You
yes.
understand?
Woo,
And
yes.
then we're processing, and that may take some time. And then there's a certain point where you get to that work. Forgiveness
Yeah,
work is not where you start a lot of times.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you get there, but it's not where you start. Sometimes
yeah.
we could just start with simple stuff like a cognitive distortion, because sometimes
Mhm.
someone may be saying like, this happened to, I deserve what happened to me
Yes,
because I am not worthy. I am
yes,
not, I am not, X, Y,
yes,
and Z. So sometimes we may start with that cognitive distortion of self and
yes.
work on that and teach skills. A lot of times I
Yeah.
start off with, what's the pros and cons of you even doing this change?
Mm,
From the
mm.
very first for the very
Yeah,
first bet when we meet, what are the
yeah,
pros and cons of you making this change? Because
yeah,
this change is going to reverberate throughout every area of your life.
yeah,
People were used to Brandy being one way, but a
yeah.
healed Brandy looks a different way.
Girl,
And are
totally
you
different.
ready? Are you ready for that Brandy to come out, and
Yeah,
the difference that's going to, and the change that's going to have in the people around you,
yeah.
right?
It's just
Because
free
there's
because
so,
it's freeing. It's so
yes,
freeing. Like when
yes,
you got me at the pre-event, I was willing to put up with stuff. Because when I look, if I look at someone who had a nasty divorce or abusive relationship and they stayed in it, there was a state of mind pre in that situation leading up to you dating the person courting you, all the different things.
right.
Now we dealing with the real issue. Now we're almost taking a step back because we're dealing with, well, where did that mindset even come from?
Hmm.
Where did it come from? And now that mindset went into this marriage or whatever. Now it's broken, and we got to heal all of this, all of
Right.
pre relationship and courting, because you was dealing with something then because we made a decision. But then also we got to deal with the aftermath of now this is another wound that was open. Like you already had a
Right.
wound that was halfway closed, and this didn't do nothing but just reopen it back up. And so I'm looking at my own stuff, and I can't even imagine, like, I dealt with so many layers. I was
Oh
angry.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
was upset. I was sad. I was emotional. I mean, all the things. But when I think about what you're telling me right now, I think about some of the things that also prior to that, I'm from the hood. So I was like angry, like if somebody come running up on my shoes. I had B boots. I don't know if anybody remember B boots back in the day, but I had different colors, and I had red ones because I wanted to sought out to be a gang member. So
We
I wore
thank God you didn't.
a girl, and I would wear red boots. But if somebody ran up against my boots or scuffed my boots because I spent like good money on them, I was ready to fight. So
Oh,
it
of
was
course.
anger. It was anger before then, and I didn't know where it came from. And so leading up to this situation, after the fact, I was even more angry. I was just like, I don't even know how to process this anger because this is like beyond. Because I can't do because I feel like I can't do anything. It's out of my control now. Like if somebody scuffed my boots, I'll run up on them. I'll be like, wait,
You
did
take
you just walk
control.
up the
Yeah.
street? Yeah, I have control. But this right here, I did not have control. I didn't have control over how the justice system said this is expunged from this person's record. What? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? I just been intruded and violated. And now you're
Right.
telling me that I ain't gonna get the justice that I feel like I deserve? Like,
Right.
what? Like, it was a fail. And I felt like when all said and done, I did feel like that I deserve that. Like, because of all the things that I may have done to someone, maybe I went off on someone. I felt
Mm.
like maybe I did deserve that. Or what I was about to do prior to the event, hours before the event. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I was about to go see somebody. I about to, oh
Have
yeah,
a
9
good
o'clock,
time.
to go see my boo. And I thought I tied that into maybe that's the reason why. Because
Mm.
I had um tendencies or habits. So that's the reason why this happened to me. And so it made me think that I wasn't worthy, I was undeserving, I wasn't supposed to
Mm.
have a good life, and so forth. And the list went on.
Right.
And those things had to be unpacked, which was
Of
hard.
course. It's very hard. Healing is not pretty. Healing
No.
is, have you seen those meme where it says, I thought healing would look like sunshines and daisies? And then the next side is like the person is drenched in sweat and tears and they look like they're about to pass out. Um, Healing is not pretty. And you sometimes have to take it to the inner child, like healing the inner child. And I'm not going to go into too many theoretical details, but forgiving forgiving your parents sometimes for
Yeah.
understanding that they did what they could with what they had. And if they didn't have much and if they didn't know much, then,
What did
you
you
know,
expect from them? Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't excuse what they've done. It doesn't make it right, but it
Yeah.
gives you, I know as a parent now, I have a better understanding for why my mom said I couldn't sleep over other people's house.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For a long
Absolutely.
time, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't like her. She's too strict. When I have kids, I ain't gonna be strict, blah, blah, blah. BC became a social worker. BC worked with sex offenders, and then BC was like, no child is spending the night anywhere.
Ain't nobody.
No
Ain't
way.
you ain't going.
No way. And my daughter asked me now, and I told her, I said, Mommy's just not comfortable with that. We
Yeah.
can stay there late and we come home and you sleep in your own bed, and we could go there early in the morning so you could go eat breakfast with
Yeah.
them. Because
Yeah.
what are you doing while you're sleeping that's so important?
Right.
And she looked
Right.
at me strange, like, I don't know, sleeping, you
Right.
know.
Mama,
And
like,
as a
what's
six
it?
at a 6 year old, she's just like, I just want to have fun. We can have fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
or maybe
Yeah.
mommy and daddy need to sleep over there too with you. I don't
Okay.
know.
Right.
I don't know,
I don't
but
know, but what I
as
do
far as
know,
leaving you and
yeah.
going somewhere
Yeah.
else after
Yeah.
20 some hours of labor without an
Yeah.
epidural, I think
Yeah.
not. I
It's
think
about
not.
that's a negative for me.
Yes, I
That
think
is a
not.
negative.
But it's just going through and understanding.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to, relationships like parent relationship and stuff like that, coming to a reconciliation or an
Mhm.
understanding can then help shift you over to that side of, now I can begin the forgiveness work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Coming from the understanding of, you shared some things about the person who attacked you. Remember, we had the conversation, like,
Yeah.
and I told you, I said, when you release that, your belief system, God
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
it. And,
Yeah.
not to go into any details online, but it's it's so powerful when you release that person, because then they don't have a power over you.
They don't have control over you. Oh my gosh, Bisi.
Control,
Yes.
power, all of that.
Yes.
And you're able to, because you know what's happening? They're walking around Johnny go lucky doing their own thing, and you over
Yeah.
here in the corner just, and it's, going through to therapy. I tell people, because sometimes people are like, well, it's just talking. No, it's not just talking. It's
No. Yeah.
it's not just talking. We are
Yeah.
challenging thoughts. We're doing Socratic method.
Yes.
We are basically taking all that gunk in your head and pulling
Yep.
it out string by string, making it make sense. We
Yeah.
are we are providing techniques to in EMDR they say tap it out. We have people tap it out, and
Yeah.
and and figuring ways to contain certain emotions when you're not ready to deal with it.
Yeah.
Having healthy ways of expressing yourself. I have clients sometimes that will come to me and say, my husband, blah, 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 blah. And I said, so did you tell him how you felt? No. So how's he supposed to know? He's not a mind
Right.
reader,
Right.
And they'll be like, well, I said you, blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, we're going to start with the I feel. What did you
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah.
You felt what? Like, let's start from there. And trust me, it's hard because I don't do it all the time in my personal life. But you have to be able to express the
Mm-hmm.
feelings, like, and
Yeah.
understand what is the feeling and identify it. And once you identify a feeling, you then know what's bothering you. Think
Yes.
about anger. You're angry, but if you identify that secondary feeling, like,
Yeah.
I'm angry at that person who cut me off on the Dallas tollway because I was scared. I have my babies in the car and they almost hit me. And I'm scared they would have hit me and my
Wow.
babies would have gotten hurt. Right? Recognizing that, okay, I'm scared. I'm
Yeah.
scared for
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
kids in
Yeah.
the back seat.
Yes. Yes.
Releases that anger because I'm like, oh, that's why I'm yelling and screaming and my daughter's telling me to calm down.
Yeah, and it's
So,
probably when I think about it too, BC, like when we had to move, I wanted to be in a gated area. I was like, somebody got to put a code up in here because where it happened, I didn't have that. And so when
mm,
I think about the aftermath of dealing with that,
right.
I wanted all protection that life could provide.
I
And
bet.
unfortunately, my money at the time couldn't provide it, but I wanted something to give some type of protection. And to your point, talking about the person in the car, I was on that like high all the time.
Oh, because you were
If something
so,
moved, yeah, feeling
yeah.
the emotion of, is somebody else going to come and attack me? Somebody will walk. We were on the third floor in the apartment, and then there was this hallway that went all the
Hmm.
way down to the other side of the apartments. We were on one side, and there was some other ones. There was another couple of people on the other side.
Hmm.
My room and the kitchen and everything ran up against that hallway, the outside hallway of the apartment. And I remember at times, like if I would even hear a creak or a sound, I immediately, my senses were like so
You're
heightened.
tingling. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like to the extreme. Like the woman who's in the car, the reason why you're angry is because the other layer is that I got two kids in the backseat of the car. You could have hit
Right.
me, something could have happened. I could have
Right.
swerved. And then now I got to try to
Anything.
figure out how to protect these kids, and I don't have control over that because they're sitting in the back seat. The
The
circle,
thoughts. Yeah.
the thought, those things were real to me. Because
Yeah.
even if I heard a bird chirping, I was like, wait a minute. What is that noise? Why is that near the door? You know what I mean? Like the extreme, because I wanted to be able to say, I got control. I can protect me and my child because now my child is here. Because when it happened, my child wasn't at home. Now my
Hmm.
child is here. Now I got to protect me. Now I got to protect this other human being and
Right.
myself included. But I'll be at that moment, I was willing to put myself at risk so that this child can survive.
Right.
So
And
no,
think about, the meme, there's like these TikToks where they talk about like when Black people hear a sound and they stop and then turn off the music.
girl, and I
It's
think it's funny because
funny,
it's so
but it's a
real. It
trauma
is.
response. But it's a trauma
Oh
response.
my
It's a
gosh.
trauma response.
But we do it all the
All the
time.
time. Or you see somebody running and you just start running too, not even trying to look back and see what's happening. It's such a trauma response, right? And and we joke about it, we laugh about it, but
It's so
if you think
real.
about it, it's sad, right?
So
It's
real.
sad because it's it's the neighborhoods, right? Like if
Yeah.
if I'm not gonna be if I'm in South Dallas and I hear something that sounds like a firework, I'm not gonna think it's
Girl
a
gone.
firework. I'm out.
Girl, I'm out.
I'm
I'm out.
I'm under somebody's car.
I
I'm
saw
out.
somebody.
You
Honey,
know.
it ain't no
Um,
questions. I ain't
I don't
asking no
I don't
questions.
say is that a firework? I don't care if it's
No,
4th of July or not. I'm out.
honey, I'm
But
gone.
but it's the same thing. Like if you've gone through such a traumatic instance,
Yeah.
there's this
Yeah.
video that it just keeps playing in my mind. It's the lady in the Bronx. It's been going around where she runs into her apartment, and as soon as she closes that door, a perpetrator is banging on her door.
Mm.
And I've seen it a couple of times in the last 2 days. And the lady's talking about she can't sleep. She's having, even though nothing happened and she's safe, she's
But
so
still,
scared
it's scary.
because
It
he
is
followed her
scary.
into her apartment and
You
chased her to her
feel
door.
you feel violated.
Oh, on so many
My
levels.
peace, my peace, my personal space has now
Exactly.
been violated to to a degree I can't even explain. And that's the way I felt. I felt like my personal space, my privacy was violated and intruded, and I had no control
Control.
over it. And
And then you went to go
that's
get control, right? Did you not go get control like a gun, a taser, knife, something?
and it's scary.
Mhm.
Like you don't want to have to go to that extreme, but you do. I didn't want to be around knives for a very long
Mhm.
time. Like, can we scoot that over there? Like, please don't come back. And people would accidentally forget
Oh
because they weren't
wow.
a part of this event. And sometimes they'll put a knife, wave a knife in front of me, like, Brandi, I would get you. And I would just be like, and it was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Because in some way it did bring back, I was just like, can you please back that up? Because I don't play like that's not a game to me. Because
You know
that
what would be beautiful? Is EMDR.
what is that?
EMDR is eye movement desensitization. I took a training. I'm trained in it, but um, it it does this. So a lot of times with trauma, memories are not processed correctly. And so you have
Mm,
fragments of memories just there. So a lot of times when you ask someone like what happened, they can tell you how they felt, like their heart was beating, whatever. But if you
oh
ask them
yeah.
for like a general, like, what did the room look like? What, they don't remember all of that. They probably remember for you, like you remember the knife, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may remember the person's face and how their
Yep.
expression looked.
Yep.
You may remember how you were feeling and the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts that you had going on, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe the other things is not there. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times with EMDR, you do this, you process, and when you process it, the brain is able to process that memory properly.
Mm,
So you remember what happened, but
mhm.
the intensity and the feeling and the uncomfortability that comes with that
Yeah.
lessens or goes away.
Mm,
So you're able
mm,
to look at that memory, you're able to talk about that memory without
mhm,
feeling like it just happened.
mm. 'Cause honey, they was waving knives, and I was like, "Yeah, no,
No,
no, back that up.
yeah.
It's too close." But it was too soon, too early.
Mhm,
Today, it doesn't bother me. It's just more of like it's just like passing the knife, like, "Hey, girl,
okay.
like, here you go." You know
So
what I
you
mean?
processed it.
Yeah, but in the beginning stages, I was like, please do not wave that in front of me.
Mhm,
Now, I will say this in true transparency, there are flashbacks. There are moments like somebody can wave a knife and it like triggers
mhm,
something. And I just be like, okay. Like, but it's not as severe when it first happened and somebody would wave them. And I was like, yeah, can you back that away from me? Or the emotion of arising to protect myself will all of a sudden heighten. And I was like, can you
mhm.
please back that away from me? Because yeah, no, like those type of things would come up today. If they do it, that doesn't really come up. Every now and
Yeah,
again, I think when it comes unexpectedly and I can't see it and it kind of comes
mhm.
at, I'll be like, whoa, what? Like, hold on, back that thing up. Um,
Right.
it was probably it was way more severe, like a couple, probably several years ago, because it would just take me back, and I would literally see myself in the whole situation all over again. And I mean, even to this day, like if somebody really wanted me to carve out details, I couldn't tell you the details of like snippets of like the conversation. I can generalize the conversation leading up to that whole thing. Like I could tell you verbatim what happened.
So you
um
processed it. That's good.
yeah, and it was, I mean, but it was hard to process it. I don't even know how I processed it, but it was very hard because I
I hope through
wanted to.
therapy. Was therapy
Yeah,
like
it was there. I think it was. I think I had to do my own processing because I had to make it. I had to realize, like, okay, so like one of the examples I'll give, and I know we went way past over,
I
but
know.
one of the things, like, okay, so like for example, I was watching a movie and my husband said, hey, he was going out of town for work, and this was like recent, and it freaked me out because I didn't know what the heck was going on, mentally and emotionally. So I was watching, it was Collateral. That was the name of the movie. It was in
Okay.
the
Yes.
background. I was working. So this TV is on. I'm kind of looking up, looking at the movie, looking up, and it's nighttime because this event happened to me late at night. As he's leaving, I started freaking out. I was like, he's not in the house. What about if somebody came in here? Oh my God. And I freaked out so bad to a point where I called my daughter and I was like, my oldest daughter, because she doesn't stay with us. I was like, can you just come to the house and just lay in the bed with me? Like, but
Yeah.
I'm being real with y'all. Like, that
Yeah.
happened. And I didn't know how and why. It was a little weird for me because I was like, what, like, I haven't felt that in such a long time. So it was just like it was this fear factor that like lifted and heightened. And my
Mm-hmm.
husband was like, maybe it was due to the movie that you were watching and it was in the background and all these different
It's
like
possible.
guns and late night and all these different things were
Yeah.
happening. And your brain was like making it real. So I can't watch scary movies. Like,
Oh, I can't. I'm scary. I can't do it.
yeah, I just can't. So like those things, but for that reason, like, to what you're saying is like processing it and realizing that this is not happening to you again. Like,
Yes.
and that was something I had to realize in that very moment, like, Brandy, everything is all right. You are safe. This is not happening. But that fear
And
factor.
that example you're bringing up, and it can have you understand why someone may take a drink. Or
Right.
if someone, or someone may do
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
just to make them forget it, to numb it, to not want to feel it or
Yeah.
remember those things, right? And
Yeah.
that's why
Absolutely.
addiction and trauma are so intertwined, because people are looking for ways to cope with some of these things that they have not processed.
Yes.
And sometimes people don't even are not ready to process,
Hmm.
or or don't know where to go and process it right. Because if you're
Yeah.
going to if someone wants to process something and they go talk to a friend, the friend's just going to tell you from their point of view, and that's not
Yes.
processing. To
Hmm.
process something is to have someone have you dig deep and bring out the stuff within you,
Yeah.
and for you to figure it out. That's why I
Yeah.
put it in my mission that I'm not here to help anybody. I'm here to assist you to help yourself. I'm
Yeah.
here. I literally see myself as that chrysalis cocoon around you as you're
Yeah.
transforming. And that's
Yeah.
why, that's why my company, the main title is Chrysalis Therapeutic Services, because
Yeah.
I want people to recognize that a lot of that healing does come from you and comes from
Mhm.
within you, but it's
Mhm.
the guided part that the therapist does that helps that come out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we need that, and then so I named my website Healing Stride,
Yeah.
because I want you to know that you're going to be healing and walking through this as you're
Yeah.
healing,
Yeah.
and growing and developing. And
Mhm.
so a lot of this stuff is intentional, because I want people to recognize when if you want to work with me, because it's
Yeah.
work, that we're going to I'm not chasing you. I'm not doing
Yeah.
the work. I'm not
Yeah.
sweating.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I will meet you wherever you're at. If you're at 10%, I'm gonna give you 10%. If you're at
Yeah.
100, I'm gonna give you 100.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting you where you're at, where you're capable of working at the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and having you. I have a lot of people who are functioning really well in society. They're functioning very well on paper. On the outside,
Yeah.
they look perfect. On the inside, suicidal thoughts,
Mm.
self doubt,
Wow.
imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
name it, whatever. And I work with them on building themselves up on,
Yeah.
okay, when was the first time you heard you weren't enough? When was the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
when was the first time you felt like you were an imposter? What was that like? What
Mhm.
did that environment look like? And
Mhm.
working from there. And because I suffer from imposter syndrome a lot of times. Like, if it
Girl.
wasn't for Bolu like on my neck about she's like, you better open a private practice and use those skills. And I'd be like, I don't know. Blah, blah. And
Girl,
she
Baloo is over here telling everybody to do it.
and
Like,
she's
honey, she
like,
just
and she's
like,
like, and she's like, nah, because I mean, you were on my neck to do it. You told me to do it. Now I'm telling you
yeah,
to do
yeah,
it. And I'm like,
yeah,
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 I can motivate other people, not myself,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
it happens to all of us, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
and just being so just being focused on like how don't worry about the how we're gonna get there. Don't worry about what
yeah.
it's gonna look like. Just show
Hmm.
up.
Yeah. No,
Just
and
show up.
that's good as far as someone who is looking to get the help that they need. Showing up
Mhm.
is the first part. And
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
BC, I'm gonna cut us off. This
I
has been
know. We're
really
at an hour.
good.
Oh God.
Man, I think, man, I
It's been an
applaud
hour. Oh my
everyone. I
gosh.
had a few
Thank
people
you
on
guys so much.
Instagram. Yeah, thank y'all so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. This video will be live. It will be live on my YouTube channel, so you would be able to rewatch it if you missed it. Please comment down below, replay. BC, how can people contact you if they needed any of your services?
They can go to healingstride.com. They can email me at bc@healingstride.com. So literally BISI, my first name at healingstride.com.
Okay.
Um, and that has my information on there.
Okay.
Um, you could contact us and just send a message on the website and we'll get back to
Okay.
you. Again, it's, you know, just there are many of us out there, just the way it works with therapy is you got to find the right person
Yep.
that fits you.
Yeah.
You can't say because you went to this therapist, you're not going to try therapy again. And
Yeah.
that you're just
Ooh,
shooting
child.
yourself in the foot,
Ooh,
just
child. You
trial and
speaking a word,
error
honey.
and because the beauty in the other side,
Mhm.
I mean, it's so beautiful on the other side. That's what I tell
Oh,
some of my
girl.
clients
Yeah.
who are deep in their addiction. I'm like, recovery is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Recovery is so beautiful. And
Mhm.
I'm not in recovery myself, but the people that I have in my life that are, they're just such beautiful people. The
Yes.
way that they just see life and live life is just so
Yeah.
beautiful. And
Yeah.
and it's beautiful on that side. And don't allow this, if this therapist you just didn't feel their spirit, go to the next
Yeah.
one. Go to the
Yeah.
next one.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
seriously. And I've all right, somebody put it in there. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, all right. Yeah, so I've dealt with friends who have actually dealt with that, like, oh, I went to one therapist and it didn't work, so I'm not going to go
Right.
see another one. I'm like, it's as we learned from Baloo and Rafane
Yes.
last week, is that it's a relationship. You're building a relationship. And if
Yes.
this one doesn't work, then you find one that does, so that like, because it's about you as an individual.
Exactly.
You are the one who needs to get healed.
Exactly.
So what will you be willing to do to get your healing? What will it take? If it takes for you to find the right therapist, then are you willing to
I
do the
help
work?
people. I'm like, I'm not for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of
Yeah.
tea. I know that. I'm from New York City. We
Yeah.
tend to be very blunt. I tend to be very blunt, and some people can't handle that. Some people want that
Yeah.
southern
Yeah.
sugar, that southern sugarness, and I don't have it. It's just not
Yeah.
in me,
Yeah.
and I will help you find that if I need to.
Yeah.
I'm a social worker by heart. So if I'm not who you need, it's not hurting my feelings. Let me
Right.
find you and direct you to the right person so that you can
Exactly.
then do the work that you need to do. So
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
if it's just you want to say like where do I even start and email me that, I can send that stuff. I don't
Yeah. And that's
care. I
good.
don't mind, like just my thing is just I want the next generation to not be at the same stage that we were at.
Girl.
That's
Girl.
my thing. I want the little boys and the little girls that are being born, that are growing up, to understand, to know healthy coping mechanisms, to have
Yeah.
healthy parents,
Yeah.
to to not be resilient. I know a lot of people like to use the word resilient, but resilient means that you went through a lot of stuff. You lived in a
Yeah.
bad, like your neighborhood was so bad that you came up out of the fire. I
Yeah.
don't want my kid to be coming out of the fire. I came out of the
Right.
fire already. I don't need her to do that. She should be
Right. Right. Right.
flying
Right.
already, right?
Right. Right.
Um,
No, and that's
you
good.
know,
And so, BC, it would be good if you know of any resources or anything
mhm,
that can help people in that regard when it comes to overcoming resilience. Like, what can we do now to
mhm.
help start the healing process? Because sometimes some people are challenged with, I don't want to go see a therapist. I don't think,
Okay,
like to your point, like you said earlier, somebody told you, going to go see a therapist is just talking to somebody.
okay.
No, it's so much more than
So
that.
are you reading books?
Uh,
So, like I could, hey, sometimes the first step isn't just going to therapy, but what are you doing to facilitate the change that you're wanting? Are you just
Absolutely.
sitting there complaining and
That
saying this
part.
doesn't work, that doesn't work? Or are you
Mhm.
going in to seek the information
Yeah,
that you're needing,
that
right?
part.
You could like I said, if you're looking for book recommendations, email me. Um, go to the contact message on the website.
Yeah,
Um, you could just do, what books do you want to start with?
yeah.
There's like My Grandmother's Hands. That's a book on trauma and
Okay.
generational trauma.
Yeah.
There's so many different resources. I can't list them all,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
off the
yeah,
top of
yeah.
my head. But
Yeah,
if you don't want to see a therapist, what are you doing for yourself then?
right.
And I mean, we could pray about it. I have a friend, Shalonda, and she says, there's the spiritual realm. I'm praying, but what are you giving me in the physical?
Yeah,
Like I
no,
need
for
something in the
real.
physical to help me. And a lot of times, you could just go and yes, we are going to pray, but what are you doing? Right? Doesn't the
Yeah.
Bible say faith without works is nothing?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if that's
What is
that,
it?
you got to do the work. Work is
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
in other religions and in other spiritualities, work is there too.
Right.
So, so depending on wherever you're at or wherever, faith based that you're from or non-faith
Yeah.
based, whatever, there's so much information out there. And there's
Yeah.
so many ways that you can begin this process. You can also contact us on our Facebook page. We'll answer questions there too. Healing Stride on Facebook.
Okay.
Um, there's just I just think I just want
Mhm.
for us, everyone,
Mhm.
after the
Mhm.
pandemic, everyone going through it.
Yeah,
I
no,
just want
seriously.
I just want people to just. I keep hearing like, I can't believe my mental health is bringing me down like this. Your
Mhm.
mind controls everything.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
heart, your breathing, your thoughts, like
Yeah.
everything. Why not
Yeah.
take care of that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
your mind is not working, you're flatline,
Right.
you're dead. So
Right.
why not take care of your mind?
Yeah. Taking care of that first so
Right.
that you can be the healthy version of yourself to give to the
Exactly.
world. Yeah. So, BC, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Randy.
I so appreciate it.
I
Like,
appreciate you for having this platform,
oh,
for
yeah.
just setting the message out. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being
Yeah.
who
No,
you
thank
are.
you.
And thank
Yes.
you.
And make sure for those of you, BC has put her contact information in the chat. But BC provided to me so I can make sure I get it out to
Mhm.
my email distribution for those who weren't able to attend. And then also I'll add it as a part of the description for the YouTube and Facebook information. Again, thank you all for who stayed on, who joined us, who
Thank
stayed for the
you. Who stayed
conversation.
for the whole thing? Sorry.
Yes, thank y'all so much. No, it's fine. It's good. All good information. Thank y'all so much for joining. And I will see y'all here next
Next week.
Friday at 6:30. We have another special guest. Thank y'all so much for joining. Bye y'all.